I've realized something about myself lately, and that is I've been drifting. I've been overgiving, trying to rescue the unwilling, and slowly abandoning my own alignment to my heart and soul in this process. And it's led me to a truth that I think a lot of people will resonate today. And if you aren't willing to value your own soul enough to invest in it, no amount of information is going to save you or anyone else. So I want to talk to this podcast today that we're going from drifting and actually becoming the designer of our life. So if I'm honest, I almost didn't record this podcast today because I'm pretty tired after the events on the weekend that we just ran, our one-day events. And what's been happening is that if you follow my podcast for a long time, you'll know that me on a personal level has been going through a lot of changes. My body has been changing a lot. It's been bringing in more and more, I guess, energy, frequency, resonance, however you put it. And then what happens when we're on this journey is that we create a life at a particular resonance. So I believe that the life that, like if you look at all the areas in our lives that are happening, it's mirroring something that's actually within us. And as that resonance starts to shift, then this paradigm starts to break down and collapse around it. Now, I've always wanted to be a supporter, a helper, a giver. I'm quite an empath, and I think there's a part of me that's overgiving, to be honest with you, and it's getting to the point where I'm really needing to manage my energy and my space better as this new chapter in my life is being birthed out. And I want to have a space to be able to share this. I want to be honest. I want to be vulnerable. I think these are important qualities in all our lives, whether you're male or female, and speak to you and inspire you, and hopefully that it will allow us to start reflecting something within you. Because we talked to this concept on the weekend around drifting versus designing your life. And we tend to drift. We tend to make incremental choices that allow us to just slowly drift to a pain point somewhere along the way, where there is things that we haven't been addressed because we've been kind of caught up in the noise, or we're caught up in the overwhelm and we feel stuck, or we're even caught up in the success of things and the achievements and the striving and the materialistic things. But then one day your soul is going to ask more of you as it wants to experience its true self more and more in the 3D plane. And that's what I feel is happening at a greater level at the moment, and is happening for me personally. And I think there's a part of me that's going out there in front, like we were in front of quite a lot of people this weekend. But what I'm realizing, and I love people are beautiful, and but ultimately I can't help people if they're not willing to help themselves. I mean, we even had one lady, and bless her, she owned it, but she spoke up and said, I thought I was coming here to receive a healing today. And I've got on this heart t-shirt here is an acronym, and that R stands for responsibility. And for me, responsibility is that we actually have to own responsibility for ourselves too. And if we're in this mindset of wanting to numb our pain and wanting to simply get on with our lives and continue in the way we have the current paradigm, we're always going to recreate the pain within ourselves. And we actually have to take responsibility. Healing, whether you're talking about physical healing, emotional, mental, whether it's your relationships, your careers, whatever it might be, the relationship with yourself, all that is a collaborative approach. I see myself as a conduit, as a facilitator and a conduit of energy and resonance. And what is then needed is actually a willingness for presence, to show up for yourself in any given moment. Not willpower. Willpower is forcing something, pushing on, striving, hustling, whatever paradigm that is in. And through that willpower, you could quite easily end up burning yourself out. And in some ways, I've kind of fallen into that a little bit at the moment. And ultimately, what then tends to happen is as your energy is being dispersed, you're not fully present. You're not fully in the self. I am in the events and that, but I have a life outside of this podcast and these events. That you're only seeing a particular lens, right? I got 2 young children. I'm a family man. I love the precious time and the gifts I'm having at this moment in time, but also, it's affecting me personally in some ways. And I've realized that I'm actually being birthed into the next chapter of my progression. And what I'm encouraging you to reflect at is, what areas of your life are you being called forward to be birthed in? And are you looking to just numb the pains and distract yourselves from whatever's there and keeping yourself in the current thought paradigm? Or are you actually looking for the transformation? And the transformation and then the investment in yourself to honor that. Do you want to stay in the rat race? I always had this fantasy about, I never wanted to be in the rat race. I've never really have in some ways. But the rat race to me is being caught up in the doing of life. And it can keep us distracted from the human being of life, okay, as I'm sure you'd agree. And then we tend to invest in things in our lives, in all areas, that are keeping us distracted in the current paradigm that we have. But our heart and soul is yearning for something else. But we've become very rigid in it. So I've always wanted to strive for living as a sovereign being where I don't have to rely on the systems so much. And it took a huge amount of effort and energy to break away from the old paradigm to get to where I am in this place today, many years, and nobody else has walked that path but me, for me personally. So people don't actually know what I've been through to be in this state of being where I am right now. And I've no doubt it's the same for anyone. How can you walk in somebody else's shoes until you actually walk their path, right? So, but we tend to judge all these things very easily and get caught up in that. And that's another slippery slope of the mind, just keeping us distracted from what's wanting to reveal itself. So then we tend to drift. And then one day something is screaming inside. And instead of actually willing to create change in our lives and honor what's wanting to come through, we then resist. We go into willpower and we go into, let's keep pushing on with this until something actually breaks. And of course, when it breaks, or when there's physical issues, or when there's all sorts of different symptoms, it's so much harder to make the changes. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong. I've seen phenomenal transformation, especially at our retreats, when people go, I'm willing, I have the willingness to change, and they invest in themselves, they're investing in their self. And they see the value of understanding, developing the soul aspect. And that is like the wind within your sails. That is what's actually guiding you, that's giving you the power to move through your life and be guided by presence. Then everything changes, right? But anyway, the rat race. So then you got the rat race, and then you got divine grace. And we tend to just invest in the rat race. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm invested in things but I enjoy, but I understand the value. But I'm heavily invested in my divine grace. And my divine grace is what I truly value, because that allows me to be the best version of myself. And I can be there for everything and everyone else. And the choices I'm making is from my heart and my soul, and a soul solution that is empowering us as well. It's not just from a mental mind chatter and a fear-based paradigm. But sadly, most people don't even understand how to really connect to that, how to nurture that into our lives, and understand that actually takes development and foundational places along the way to actually get to that soul solution. I mean, I'm not going to go into it today, but if you go to our website, livingflow.co, on some of the pages, you'll see our pyramid of transformation. And, the healing and the changes of the emotional shifts that we feel are not at the base. People just come in to this work and they just want to be fixed and numb the pain and just continue on with their lives. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Not what I've witnessed. And until I'll tell you a story. So I had Robbie Holtz on the podcast twice, and her late husband Gary Holtz. Now he had MS, and he was bound by a wheelchair, and I believe he was only given 6 months to live. And he was so entrenched in his pain. He was a scientist, and I think he was even on a cover of a physics magazine or a science magazine. Like, he was a very established minded scientist, but yet he was crippled by this MS, and he was so frustrated because he had this mind and he was extremely intelligent, and he couldn't resolve this pain, and it was crippling him, and it was crushing his ego. At the end of the day, it was crushing that aspect, that identity of who he thought he was. And he got to the point where he was desperate and he was willing to try, I guess, anything. And then all of a sudden, he had the opportunity to be invited to Australia to go into the Outback of the Aboriginals. Now, when you think about it, he then had to invest in flights. He had to invest as a man that could not walk in a wheelchair and go there by himself and let go of all the things that he knew, because he was so desperate to then get to Brisbane and then be driven out into the middle of nowhere and spend weeks in this Aboriginal village, cut away from Western society. So all of a sudden, there was a willingness. He had to make the journey. He had to burn the ships. And it's like, I'm all in. I'm doing this. Because he was slowly starting to see that something had to be done. But it was still coming from a place of desperation. And when he got there, they weren't willing to work on him originally. And you know why? Because he wasn't willing. In his mind he was. Yes, yes, yes. I want to be fixed. I want to be healed. But he hadn't fully bought in. He wasn't willing to surrender to the present moment and allow the presence of divinity ultimately at the end of the day, because the field of information is beyond space and time, and the only way we can access it is by being purely present. And lean into the pain as opposed to continually running away from it, and start to understand what is underneath the pain. Okay. Now he was then in a held container and he had guidance and he was fully invested because the only way out was through. But with our modern life and our modern distractions and everything that's trying to attract our attention, we just get caught up in it all. So it's no wonder that we drift through life and we end up getting to a point where the pain has to be so great, it wakes us up. But instead of honoring that and leaning in, we freak out. We just lose our shit and we get caught up in the stuff that's actually trying to get to our attention and trying to come to our awareness, because we don't feel safe in our bodies. This is a part of it. We got no nervous system regulation and we got no awareness around this work. We just want to be fixed. Well, it doesn't work like that. Not in my personal journey, and not what I've witnessed now in front of, nearly 6,000 people in the last 7 years. It doesn't. So I'm kind of like this because I'm quite tired. So I'm being a little bit blunt, but I'm still loving, honestly, but the point being was that when he fully surrendered into it and kind of just let go, then the work could be done. And it turns out that he had to heal the relationship with a very abusive father and forgive him. But he's not forgiving him for him. He's forgiving him for himself, because then he's taking his power back. His energy is not externally going over there towards his dad. He's actually turning it and it's coming back to himself. And then he actually came back, and the amazing podcast, by the way, amazing book. Robbie's a legend. I love promoting her and her work. She's just the real deal, like, you know. And he actually walked back on that plane on a walking stick, and he lived for a hell of a lot longer than everything that the Western medicine was designed. But, you know, the only way you're going to get there is by going through it, through the journeys of these things, and making sure you're in environments that understand how this all operates, and getting out of your own way to do so, and investing in yourself. I got a quote here. One sec. If you aren't willing to invest in the vessel, which is you are essentially telling the universe that the rat race is more valuable than your own divine grace. What you spend your money and time on is a direct reflection of what you're willing to let go of. Are you willing to stop investing in the things that keep you comfortable in your struggle? True willingness is the moment you decide that your evolution is worth more than your distractions. See, I had to read that off the notes, because that's, for me, is where it's all about right there. We're comfortable. And I like comfort, don't get me wrong. You know, I enjoy some reflexology. You know, enjoy a comfy bed. But I ensure that I am putting my states where I get to grow, and growth as well. So with all that in mind, this podcast is to inspire you to reflect on your own life, on where you're at. And are you distracting yourself? Or are you actually allowing presence into your life? And it's okay to stuff her up. There is no perfect human. There is no perfection in this. Okay? But if you start getting passionate about it and want to change and seek people that understand this, then change is possible. But you got to be willing to invest in yourself. And you got to have willing to put skin in the game and get uncomfortable a bit, because that is going to propel you into a space of true transformation. And ultimately, what is it that you want to do? How many fires do you want to put out before you realize you got to actually change the whole setup that's with it? And I think what I've realized coming from all of this and working with people now for many years, including the health and fitness industry as well as that, and seeing the human condition, is that I'm getting to the space where I'm tired trying to help everyone. And in some parts of it, there's a part of me that I've been healing through doing that. And I want to be as honest and vulnerable as I can be with you guys that have tuned into the podcast. And I know many people that listen to this come to the retreats and the events and know me, you know, and it's to the point where I'm going to be getting in a way where I actually only want to work with people that want to go deeper with this work and are willing to go there and continue to move forward, because the more people that are willing to transform their lives and become a conscious leader from the heart and soul and be an influence of change in their own in their own families, their own communities, and their own environments or workspace or whatever it is that you are, that's how we're going to create the real change. And that's, I've realized, is how I'm going to create even more change from that as well. So let's see what happens, eh? It's going to be interesting along with that. And who knows? I'm even considering opening up some space to work with me directly, but they will there won't be many. I'll see. I'm not there yet because I need to fill my own cup back up fully first before I get into any mentoring. But other than that, let me know what you think of this podcast, where you are in the world, and I hope you got something out of it today. And if it just sounded like me ranting, I apologize. I don't think so. I'm sure there was some value in there for all of us. But I needed to hear this podcast as much as you. Anyway, much love, and I'll see you soon. I'm actually here right now at a retreat space in Taupo, New Zealand, and it's beautiful. And it really brings home the difference between understanding this work and actually living it. Because that's what retreats can do and why we're so passionate about it. They give you the space to slow down, to reconnect, and truly let something deeper land. So it's not just an idea, but it's a lived experience. That's why we created Live in Flow. So if you've been feeling this shift in your own life and you know you're ready to go deeper, then come back to liveinflow.co to find out more.